everyone, I am Dr. Shalini Bandyopadhyay, Assistant Professor of Biology. Today we will discuss about the central metabolism. So what is central metabolism? Normally the cellular metabolism is the set of all the chemical reactions that occur within the living organisms in order to maintain their life. The central metabolism, which is also called the central carbon metabolic network, refers to a series of interconnected biological reactions that occur within the living cells. It involves the conversion of carbon-containing molecules like glucose or sugar and other organic compounds into the energy and precursor molecules necessary for the cellular growth, development, proliferation and survival. So the central metabolism deals with two different pathways. One is glycolysis, another one is TCA or citric acid cycle. So here we will discuss in details about these two central metabolic pathways. So glycolysis, this actually takes part in the cytoplasm of the living organisms. It involves mainly the breakdown of glucose molecules into the pyruvate, resulting in the production of ATP and reducing the equivalents in the form of NADH. And another one is the TCA cycle or citric acid cycle or tricarboxylic acid cycle, which also known as the Krebs cycle, takes place in the mitochondria. So the glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm and TCA cycle takes place in the mitochondria. The TCA cycle actually completes the oxidation of the acetyl-CoA, which is generated from the glycolysis pathway, means the glucose breakdown and other carbon sources. So introduction to glycolysis. You can see this is the glucose molecules C6H12O6. It breaks down into pyruvate. So actually what is glycolysis? Breakdowns of glucose into pyruvate molecules in the cytoplasm. Occurs anaerobically, means it does not require any oxygen and produces energy like 2 ATP adenosine triphosphate and 2 NADH per glucose. Steps of glycolysis. This is actually the basic steps of glycolysis, but we will better understand by observing the picture. So first, glucose is phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate by an enzyme known as hexokinase. You can see glucose is phosphorylated into glucose 6-phosphate. Here ATP adenosine triphosphate is converted into ADP adenosine diphosphate and the enzyme is hexokinase. Then glucose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate by the enzyme known as phosphoglucose isomerase. And then here glucose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate. This is the fructose 6-phosphate. Then fructose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, the enzyme known as phosphofructokinase. Here you can see the fructose 6-phosphate is phosphorylated into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. And then comes the cleavage phase. So first, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is split into two types. One is dihydroxyacetonic phosphate or DHAP. Another one is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate or G3P. Here you can see GLAP and GDHP and then G3P. And DHAP is converted into another G3P. And then each G3P is oxidized as phosphorylated into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Then from 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, 3-phosphoglycerate is produced by the enzyme known as phosphoglycerate kinase. Then from 3-phosphoglycerate, 2-phosphoglycerate is produced by the enzyme called phosphoglycerate mutase. the phosphoenol pyruvate is produced from the 2-phosphoglycerate by the enzyme known as enolase, and the last step, the phosphoenol pyruvate is converted into pyruvate, and the enzyme is known as pyruvate kinase. So this is the basic diagram of glycolysis pathway. This is the fate of the pyruvate. After the glycolysis pathway, the pyruvate can convert it into acetyl-CoA, and then further oxidation it goes in the citric acid cycle. Then it can also form the lactate, and also it can generate the acetyl-aldehyde, and then in anaerobic condition, and then from acetaldehyde ethanol or alcohol is produced by the process known as fermentation. So introduction to the citric acid cycle or TCA cycle or Krebs cycle. It occurs in the mitochondria, in the mitochondrial matrix, and it oxidizes the acetyl-CoA which is produced by from the pyruvate in a cyclic reaction. That's why it is called as the cycle. Energy it produces ATP, NADH, FADH2 and CO2 per glucose. So steps, the initial steps, the acetyl-CoA combines with oxaloacetate and conversion of citrate to citrate synthase. Then the oxidation and regulation, the citrate is the isocitrate is formed from citrate. Then it converted into alpha ketoglutarate, and then alpha ketoglutarate to succinyl-CoA which generates the NADH and CADH2 CO2 which is a major control point, and then the conversion of succinate, then succinate to fumarate, and the final step, the fumarate to malate and malate to oxaloacetate. So acetyl-CoA to citrate, citrate to alpha ketoglutarate, alpha ketoglutarate to succinate, succinate to malate, and then oxaloacetate. So you can see the acetyl-CoA and oxaloacetate is used to produce a citrate. So this is a cycling process. This is the cycle also, you can see that, where the NADH, GTP, these types of energies are also produced. So the ATP synthesis for your semester, this part is actually very important, so you have to remember that. In the glycolysis process, we already observed that 2 ATP molecules are produced and 2 NADH molecules are produced. So 1 NADH molecules is equivalent to 3 ATP. So 2 NADH molecules is equivalent to 6 ATP. See, means 6 ATP plus 2 ATP equals to 8 ATP. In the leak pathway, means after the glycolysis, 2 NADH molecule is produced. So 1 NADH is equals to 3 ATP and 2 NADH equals to 6 ATP. And in the citric acid cycle, 2 ATP, 6 NADH means 6 into 3. 1 NADH equals to 3 ATP, 6 NADH equals to means 6 into 3, 18 ATP molecules are produced, and 2 FADH2. 1 FADH2 is equivalent to 2 ATP molecules. So 2 FADH2 equals to 2 into 2, 4 ATP molecules. So total 2 plus 18 means 20, then plus 4 means 24, means 24 ATP molecules will be produced. So the total number is in glycolysis 8, in leak pathway 6, and in the citric acid cycle it is 24, so total is 38. So comparison of glycolysis and Krebs cycle. The glycolysis and citric acid cycle takes place in different places. Glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm, and citric acid takes place in the we already observed in the mitochondria. So you can see it is a glucose to pyruvate, then it comes in the citric acid cycle. So central metabolism actually present in all living organisms. Both glycolysis and Krebs cycles are important for the energy production or for production of adenosine triphosphate. Enzymatic control meets the cellular energy demand efficiency, and it also has a health impacts because disruption linked to the metabolism process causes several metabolic disorder or diseases. So thank you so much for listening.